Prologue. On mythical Abode Mountain, Cloud's End Cliff was the deadliest of the 4 deadly regions on Azure Cloud Continent. Cloud's End Cliff was often called the Death God's Graveyard. During the countless years, people who have fallen off this cliff was too many to count, none had survived, including 3 Heavenly King-ranked experts with overwhelming might. At this moment, on the edge of this cliff, a black-haired, black-eyed youth leaned on the side of a rock that measured 2 people in height. There was blood everywhere on top of his black clothing with many open wounds on his person. He was on the rock for just a few breaths worth of time, yet a pool of blood was already beneath his feet. His chest heaved, and it could be said that the pace at which he breathed was heavy enough to cause fear in a person. On his entire body, every one of his muscles trembled slightly, indicating his exhaustion and loss of strength. If it were not for this giant rock, he probably would not even be able to stand on his own. However, both of his eyes were cold and calm like 2 cold blades, shining with the ferocity of wolves. The edge of his mouth sneered with extreme disdain. In front of him stood a dark crowd of people that blocked all his escape routes. Yun Che, you're cornered. If you obey us and hand over the Sky Poison Pearl, perhaps we may allow you to live. Today we are going to enforce justice on behalf of heaven to get rid of this scourge. If you hurry up and quickly surrender the Sky Poison Pearl, we can let you die a happy death, or you will taste the pain of 1,000 blades in your heart. Yun Che, stop being so stubborn, your only way out is to hand over the Sky Poison Pearl. You're unworthy of such a holy object. Waves of roars came from the crowd, with everyone there shouting words like justice and righteousness. If anyone from the Azure Cloud Continent passed by, they would be stunned by this scene. This dark crowd of people consisted of the strongest clans of the Azure Cloud Continent. The leaders of the clans were all present, and even some of the forgotten old members were there as well. It was not too far-fetched to say that if one pick anyone out from this crowd, he would be someone that can shake any region. Now, they were all gathered for this youth who had been pushed to the edge of this cliff. Specifically, for the Sky Poison Pearl in his hand, the #1 holy object of Azure Cloud Continent. While slowly approaching, the crowd shouted with threatening menace. When the Sky Poison Pearl finally showed up again, they were faced with this irresistible treasure once more. After hunting for 3 full days, they could not wait to harvest the fruits of their labor. You guys want this Sky Poison Pearl? Yun Che laughed coldly. As he slowly raised his right hand, a jade green ball with a dim radiance appeared in his hand. The moment this pearl glowed, everyone stopped in their tracks. Staring tightly at the green pearl, their eyes shone with greed. To Yun Che, these people who were strong enough to scare the world looked filthy and sly. He slowly raised his eyes. Although cornered, his pupils shone with arrogance and mockery. Clear hatred was deep in his eyes. My master spent his life trying to save the world. He saved countless people seeking neither benefit nor fame, but because of this Sky Poison Pearl, you guys from the so-called justice sects killed my master 7 years ago. I hate myself for being so useless. That I didn't finish all of you dog shit justice sects off in these 7 years. Every word of his contained deep-seated hatred. Although it had been 7 years, just thinking about the death of his master still made bloody tears stream down the edge of his eyes. Yun Che did not know who his parents were, for when his master found him, it seemed like he was only a few days old. It was deep in the springtime when his master picked up Yun Che. The clouds were scattered, the wind was light, the mountain spiritual, and the water crystal clear. He named the child Yun Che, in hopes his heart would be as pure as clouds and as clear as water, so that when he grew up, he would inherit his craft as a healer to rescue the dying and cure the injured with a heart void of corruption. No matter how serious the disease or trauma, Master could clear them all. This was due to the Sky Poison Pearl hidden in his body. The 2 words, Sky Poison, meant that this pearl was highly toxic, but medicine and poison were of the same origin. Master never used its poison, he only used alchemy to extract, melt, and in the end produce holy medicines to save millions of lives. He taught all his medical skills to Yun Che thoroughly, but 7 years ago, word of his Sky Poison Pearl was spread. He gave it to Yun Che and told him to escape. Shortly afterwards, he died at the hands of the major sects. When news of his master's death reached Yun Che, he cried for 3 days and 3 nights. The root of hatred was firmly planted inside his heart, and he no longer practiced in the medicinal arts. Instead, he absorbed poison from the pearl. Revenge became his only belief. After 7 years he mastered the poison and bared the fangs of revenge. In less than 10 days, the poison spread not only thousands of miles, killing countless people, but also panic and horror throughout the Azure Cloud Continent. It attracted the strong and mighty, for they were fascinated by this treasure. This started the hunt of Yun Che in order to obtain the Sky Poison Pearl, to the situation right now. He glared at everyone in his field of vision with hatred in his eyes and laughed coldly. As soon as his laughter reached the level of ice, he roared, "You son of a b***t chess, you want my Sky Poison Pearl, you are all daydreaming." After making this deep proclamation, Yun Che suddenly raised his hand and threw the Sky Poison Pearl in his mouth. He then pushed the pearl down his throat and it instantly rushed straight into his stomach. What are you doing? He actually swallowed the Sky Poison Pearl. Yun Che Do you want to die that badly? It's fine, no big deal, we will kill him and take the pearl. The sky poison pearl entered his body, but the poison didn't spread out in his body and kill him like they thought it would. A faint green light emitted from the surface of his body. Kill him now. Otherwise the sky poison pearl may change inside his body. That would be a huge problem. Roaring, a dozen people in the front row went for Yun Che at the same time. Looking at the figures of the people he wanted to destroy, Yun Che began to laugh. His laughter was weak and dry but still very arrogant. I don't have the ability to kill you guys, but don't think that you can kill me. You pieces of trash are not worthy of this sky poison pearl and even more unworthy of killing me. If I die, I would die by my own hands. Ha ha ha. After laughing, Yun Che used every bit of his last strength to jump backwards. Stop him. Several hands reached out to Yun Che after realizing his intent but could not even grasp half his shadow. They could only watch as his body free fell down into the valley. Cloud's End Cliff, it is very suitable for my, Yun Che's grave. TL, Yun equals cloud. There is nothing to hold me back, for I no longer have ties in this world. Unfortunately, I could not avenge my master, nor find my biological parents. Yun Che gently held the silver pendant in front of his chest. It was the only thing he had on him when his master found him. The wind screamed past his ears as he slowly closed his eyes and let his body plunge deep into the seemingly endless dark abyss. Chapter 1 Yun Che, Xiao Che. Yun Che's consciousness gradually awakened. What's going on? How is it that I have not died? I vividly remember that I jumped off Cloud's End Cliff. How can I still be alive? Somehow my body is not in pain, and I do not even feel the slightest discomfort. How is this happening? Yun Che suddenly opened his eyes and quickly sat up. He found himself in a comfortably soft bed, with a red banner hanging above him, rendering a festive atmosphere. Ah, little Che. You woke up. A girl's gasp of surprise was heard from his ear, and the same girl appeared in his line of sight. At a glance, the girl dressed in green looked to be 15 to 16 years of age. She was as fair as snow with charming rosy lips and a delicate nose. A touching look of deep surprise was expressed by eyes as clear and transparent as a pool of translucent spring water. Her face exuded a dazzling gentleness and softness. At this young age, she already exhibited such charm, so who can possibly imagine what sort of beauty she would be in the future? Staring at the nearby girl, Yun Che took a closer look and unconsciously let two words escape his lips, little aunt. The fair girl lifted her jade-like hands onto Yun Che's forehead and relaxed soon after. With a joyful expression, she spoke, how delightful, your temperature is almost back to normal. You nearly scared me to death. Little Che, are you okay? Tell me if you feel uncomfortable anywhere. In the face of the girl's eyes that filled with deep concern, Yun Che woodenly shook his head. He stared openly into space with a vacant gaze. Rest here for a while, I'll go and tell your grandpa that you're awake. Today is your day. When you fainted, your grandfather almost went crazy and personally went to find Dr. Satu for you. The girl was in such a rush that she did not notice the abnormality of Yun Che's current state. She pushed Yun Che's shoulders, signaling him to lie back on the bed, and hurriedly left. As the door shut, Yun Che sat up on the bed, hands clutching his head. This was one of the cities in the Far East located in one of the 7 empires of the profound sky continent, Floating Cloud City. And he was the only grandson of the 5th elder of the Xiao clan, Xiao Che. He had just turned 16 this year. That was his current identity. Suddenly, his memory overlapped with the Azure Cloud continent's 20 or so years of memory, and he burst into confusion. If I am Xiao Che, then why do I have memories of the Azure Cloud continent? Is it because I traveled to this body after I died in the Azure Cloud continent? No. I am obviously Xiao Che. This entire room is familiar to me, and I clearly remember all the events of my childhood. Everything from my memory was from personal experience, and there is no way I would steal another's memory. Then was everything from the Azure Cloud continent all just a dream? Was it only after I jumped off Cloud's End Cliff that I truly woke up? But the memories of living in Azure Cloud continent were as clear as day. How could those 24 years of love and hatred be only just a dream? What the hell is going on? Yun Che, the current Xiao Che, stilled for a long time as he slowly calmed down and settled his thoughts. It was still early in the morning and the sky had not fully brightened. Today was his and Sha clan's big wedding day. 2 hours ago he was woken up by his little aunt and put on his red wedding robe. He ate the porridge his little aunt personally made and lost all the strength in his body. He did not remember anything that happened after that. He did not wake up until now. A strange smell came from his lips, and Xiao Che's lips tucked slightly. His expression darkened. This is murdering heart powder. In those years that he lived on the Azure Cloud continent, with the sky poison pearl in his body, Yun Che learned about all the poisons present in the entire world, and it could be said that there was no poison he was not familiar with. He could identify a poison's name and effect with just a whiff. At the same time, because the sky poison pearl, he was impervious. He could not be hurt by any poison, no matter how toxic it was. Murdering heart powder was made by combining a unique soul grass and the purple striae from a cherry apple tree. If dissolved in water, the poison was colorless and tasteless. A person would lose his life 10 seconds after the poison entered the body and no one would know the cause of death, for it was also a traceless poison. Xiao Chei's eyes clouded over and instantly understood what had happened. In fact, he did not really faint. Instead, he drank the porridge containing the murdering heart powder and was poisoned to death. He was born in the Azure Cloud continent, but after he leapt off Cloud's End cliff, he was actually reincarnated in this world inside a dead body. If one were to hear this, it would sound like it was a fantastical story, but that was the only reasoning Xiao Chei could imagine. Wait a minute. If it really was like that, then this body should have no antitoxin ability. How come he was safe from the murdering heart powder on his lips when the previous body's owner died not too long ago? A slightly strange feeling came from the palm of his left hand. Xiao Chei lifted his left hand and was surprised to find that there was a circular green imprint on his palm. This shape, this color, this size was clearly the same as the sky poison pearl. Before jumping off Cloud's End cliff, he had desperately swallowed the sky poison pearl, but he did not actually know what would happen to him. This mark on his hand was unexpectedly the sky poison pearl, and it actually crossed over with him to this world. As if in a trance, Xiao Chei stared at the sky poison pearl and subconsciously whispered, "Sky poison pearl." As his voice dropped off, the green mark on his palm suddenly released a green light. Immediately, a slight dizziness came over him and he unconsciously closed his eyes. When he opened them, his entire world was flooded in green. This world of green was wide and open. There were no boundaries to be seen and there was a faint aura of the sky poison pearl throughout this space. After a long daze, Xiao Chei understood that he had entered the world inside the sky poison pearl. Who would have thought that inside the sky poison pearl, there would be such a wide and open world? What was even more unimaginable was that after he'd eaten the sky poison pearl without thinking of the consequences, the sky poison pearl had actually traveled along with him, and even seemed to have become a part of his body. If there was a way in, there had to be a way out. Xiao Chei closed his eyes, and concentrated his thoughts. Suddenly, the world of green hastily dissipated, and when he opened his eyes again, in his vision, was the room he was familiar with. Staring at the faint green mark in his palm, Xiao Chei slowly smiled, even though it was not known why this ridiculous event occurred. Not only had he reincarnated, but also retained memories from both lives. Maybe, even the gods couldn't watch the suffering of the two lives, took pity, and gave him a chance to live again. Yuan Che was the victim of persecution from Azure Cloud Continent's countless strongest individuals. Although he died in the end, he shook the world by himself. How awe-inspiring and astonishing was that? However, his body right now was only average. No, speaking without restraints, it could be considered the epitome of weakness. In the profound sky continent, profound strength was most important. Although Xiao Chei was born in the Xiao clan, and was even the grandchild of the strongest fifth elder Xiao Lai, his profound strength was still at the first level of the elementary profound realm even though he was already 16. He started training when he was 7.5, entered the first level of the elementary profound at the age of 8, and then didn't improve for an entire 8 years. He was mocked by all of Xiao clan. Afterwards, Xiao Lai invited Floating Cloud City's top-class doctor Dr. Satu to examine his body, and shockingly found that Xiao Chei was born with damaged profound veins. The damage was so severe that it was almost impossible to recover from. In this state, Xiao Chei would stagnate at first level of the elementary profound realm, and could never improve further no matter how hard he worked. Even if he trained with his life on the line, he would stay at first level of the elementary profound realm his entire life. This kind of person was unquestionably the lowest existence in the profound sky continent, and was a total laughingstock within the Xiao clan. If not for his grandfather Xiao Lai being the strongest in Xiao clan, who also could even be said to be the strongest in the Floating Cloud City, no one would bat an eye against him. Xiao clan was one of the 3 major families that trained in the ways of the profound in Floating Cloud City and has limitless strong entities. In the large number of youths coming forth from the same generation, Xiao Chei could be said to be an unnecessary existence. Even if he died someday, not many except a few would care. But there were some today that actually tried to murder him using the extremely hard to obtain and expensive murdering heart powder. Xiao Chei clearly knew the reason why now. Because today was the wedding day between him and Sha Qingyu. Sha Qingyu, being the same age as him, was also 16. However, at such a young age, her profound strength was stated to have reached the 10th level of the elementary profound realm, almost breaking out of the elementary level and stepping into the nascent profound realm. She was the only one in 100 years that had reached this level of profound strength at the age of 16 in the Sha clan. There were even rumors that if she continued to develop this way, she would be the first person in the history of the Sha clan to ever step into the Earth profound realm a few decades later, or may even be able to reach the Sky profound realm that no one in Floating Cloud City had even thought of reaching in the past few centuries. More importantly, she was not only shockingly astute but also extremely beautiful, and was considered to be the most beautiful girl by all of Floating Cloud City. All of Floating Cloud City's youths with some level of competency drooled over her. If the Shaw clan started looking for grooms, the line waiting would probably be long enough to stretch between the south and north gates of Floating Cloud City. This pinnacle of a girl with both intelligence and beauty in the Floating Cloud City was actually marrying the generation's most worthless youth with no future at all. Who knew how many people were stomping their feet in anger and jealousy? This was wholly a case of a dazzling lotus flower planted on a pile of manure that no one would even bother to look at. The ones that had unrequited love for Sha Qingyu of course held both extreme jealousy and hatred towards Xiao Che. Even more were unwilling to give up, and would try to assassinate him by poison. As the current Xiao Che thought about it, this situation didn't seem to be bizarre at all. Women are really the root of troubles. Xiao Che got off the bed, stood up, and soliloquized. But as he thought of the beauty and charm of Sha Qingyu that could tip over a whole city, he opened his mouth and laughed heartily. Still, I get to marry such a bride, this really is a good beginning. Chapter 2: Losing Control. At this time, he was wearing a red wedding robe in a room plastered everywhere with double happiness, red cloth. Last night, his grandfather Xiao Lai and his aunt Xiao Lingxi personally arranged this handiwork. His bedroom had been transformed into a wedding room. Suddenly, the door opened and an ethereal figure hastily came in. Xiao Che immediately stood up and smiled. Little aunt, is grandfather back? Xiao Lingxi was Xiao Lie's daughter from when he was middle-aged. Although she was Xiao Che's aunt, she had only turned 15 this year and was 1 year younger than Xiao Che. She was still quite young, but her beauty was already charmingly touching. Her profound strength was at the early 6th level of the elementary profound realm, but even though she was not on par with Sha Qingyu if compared, it wasn't that bad since she was an important asset to the Xiao clan and was held in high regard. Oh, Chair, you have finally woken up. A gentle voice spread across the room as Xiao Lai entered. Seeing Xiao Che already out of bed with a normal complexion, Xiao Lai relaxed a bit. Behind him followed his housekeeper Xiao Hong and the #1 doctor in Floating Cloud City, Dr. Situ. It's good that you have woken up and you do not look ill anymore, but let Dr. Situ examine you. Today is your wedding day and we cannot have the slightest error. Dr. Situ, please go ahead. Xiao Lai stepped aside during his speech. Dr. Situ put his medicine chest onto the table and sat in front of Xiao Che, lifting his hands to finger the pulse on Xiao Che's wrist. After a while, he took his hands off Xiao Che. Dr. Situ, how is Xiao Che's condition? Is it serious? Xiao Lingxi asked worriedly, with fearful nervousness etched on her face. Although he did not speak, Xiao Lai appeared solemn and had a fierce look on his face. How could he not be aware that Xiao Che's sudden collapse was strange? Dr. Situ's face slowly lit up and eased into a smile. Elder Xiao, you do not need to worry, your grandson's physical condition is excellent. He has no major ailments or even the slightest cold. Perhaps your grandson fainted because he was so nervous and excited that his blood rushed to his head. After all, your grandson is marrying Sha clan's daughter, the #1 beauty in Floating Cloud City. Ho ho ho. Although Dr. Situ tried to conceal his contempt, his words revealed his regret. A talented woman marrying a useless good-for-nothing with no future was truly hard for someone to accept. That's great news. Xiao Lai sighed in relief and nodded and thought, it must be hard on Dr. Situ to be pulled over so early in the morning. Hong, escort Dr. Situ to the living room to rest. It's fine, Dr. Situ replied with a wave of his hand and lifted his medicine chest. Since your grandson is all right, I will take my leave. Congratulations to Elder Xiao on meeting Floating Cloud City's most outstanding granddaughter-in-law. I do not know how many people must envy you right now. Ha ha. Farewell. You must remember to come to the wedding for a drink. Hong, escort Dr. Situ out. Chair, are you really all right? Do you feel unwell anywhere? Xiao Lai was still not assured after Dr. Situ left and scowled in thought. When Xiao Che suddenly collapsed, his temperature dropped and his vitality faded away. This could not only be a result of being too excited. Looking at Xiao Che's present healthy condition, he indeed looked fine right now, but Xiao Lai still could not shake off that small doubt deep in his heart. I really am all right, grandfather, you can rest assured. Xiao Che said with an easy expression. His nose couldn't help but suddenly sour as he looked at Xiao Lai and he see a worried face with a head full of white hair. Xiao clan consisted of 5 elders, and although Xiao Lai was the 5th elder, he was the strongest in the clan. 5 years ago he entered the border of the Spirit Profound Realm's 10th level. He was now at the peak of the Spirit Profound Realm's 10th level and had an opportunity to break into the true Profound Realm, a level that countless people dreamt of. Xiao Lai was only 55 years old this year with the strength of the 10th level in Profound Spirit Realm, but all his hair had already turned white. Every time Xiao Che saw this head full of white hair, his heart became bitter at the sight. The reason why Xiao Lai had white hair since his middle-age years was known to all the people living in Floating Cloud City. His only son, the father of Xiao Che, Xiao Ying, was called the #1 genius of Floating Cloud City. At the age of 17, he broke into the nascent profound realm. At 20, he reached the 5th level of the nascent profound realm. At 23, he broke through the nascent profound realm and entered the true profound realm, shocking all people of Floating Cloud City. He became the Shao clan's pride, as well as Xiao Lie's pride and joy. Almost everybody believed that when Xiao Ying became middle-aged, he would be the best candidate qualified to inherit the leadership of the Shao clan. Unfortunately, perhaps because God was jealous of the talented, there was an assassination attempt on Xiao Ying's life only a month after Xiao Che was born. A few days before that, Xiao Ying also saved the life of Shao clan's daughter. After this rescue, Xiao Ying only could fend off the assassins with half his usual strength and drew his final breath. His wife's heart broke in grief for the loss of her love and went to meet him soon after. Xiao Lie's hair became white overnight due to the heavy blow of losing his son. 9 months later, Xiao Lingxi was born. Her mother also suffered from the tortured pain of losing her only son and died of depression a month later. Nobody knew how Xiao Li lived his life the years after both his son and wife passed away. His pale white hair contained immeasurable grief, hatred and a deep unspeakable sorrow. To this day, Xiao Li still had not found his son's murderer. Later on, he put all his hopes and wishes onto Xiao Che, but the brutal truth of him being born with damaged profound veins entered and left his life out of the blue like a bolt of lightning. However, facing his hopeless grandson, Xiao Li never showed any signs of disappointment nor fury. In his point of view, being born with broken profound veins meant that fate had been unfair and that he should not be condemned because of such injustice. He should not be indifferent or ridicule Xiao Che but instead should love him more to compensate for it. Over the years, he had always been seeking any possible ways to repair damaged profound veins. However, profound veins were the lifeline of one's profound strength. How can it be so easily repaired? Although Xiao Che was ignored by others and was faced with the mocking eyes of others while growing up, he still felt lucky to have such a grandfather. Looking at Xiao Lie's piercing white hair, Xiao Che's eyes gradually sharpened. Since the gods gave me this second chance and let me have both my memories, even if it is to only comfort my grandfather, I have to live vigorously. So what if my profound veins are broken? I am a medical saint's successor. As long as I find the right medicine, in a short span of 3 weeks, I could fully restore my profound veins back to normal. You're all right, that's wonderful to hear. Watching him, Xiao Li was finally rest assured. Glancing at the brightening sky he spoke, Chair, the hour is nigh. Go make your preparations while I go arrange the wedding team. Oh right, do you want to ride horseback or sit in the carriage? If he was yesterday's Xiao Che he would definitely have answered, the carriage. Although he was the only grandson of an elder, without that status, he could be called a good-for-nothing with a world's difference between him and Sha Qingyu. On his bridal path to the Sha clan, there was no doubt that he would suffer countless finger-pointing and also bear numerous glances of envy and regret. One could imagine what feelings would surface if one met face-to-face in front of such negative emotion. Xiao Che laughed with a slight smile. Of course I'm riding on the horse. You do not have to worry about me, grandfather. Sha Qing may be nobility, but she is already fated to be our Shao family's daughter-in-law. I will openly wed her home with dignity and honor to not let you lose face. There was a delay in Xiao Lie's expression, for he would never have thought that his grandson would say such a thing. His face then broke into a gentle smile and he slowly nodded, good. With just one word, his deep satisfaction came through. Xiao Li stepped out of the room and gently closed the door. As soon as Xiao Li left, Xiao Lingxi stood in front of Xiao Che and curled her lips. Her face warped in unhappiness. She spoke, so you actually are excited for this marriage and made me worry for you in vain. You obviously have not met Sha Qingyu that many times, but you are already fond of her. Oh right, she is our Floating Cloud City's #1 beauty, ha. Xiao Che quickly waved his hands back and forth. How's that possible? Sha Qingyu is quite beautiful, but I think little aunt is prettier. If I really fainted because of her, then I would not know how many times I would have fainted in this lifetime because little aunt always accompanies me every day. Hee. Xiao Lingxi's face immediately broke into a sweet smile as she giggled. You know just the thing to say to make me happy. It's fine if Xiao Che fainted in his rush to marry her because Sha Qingyu is beautiful as she is talented. Sha clan is also the wealthiest clan in Floating Cloud City, so there is quite a lot of people who dream of marrying her. However, in the end, she is going to marry my family's Xiao Che. At this point, Xiao Lingxi wore a proud look on her face. Then her eyes became wistful as her voice gentled. I feel like this day came so quickly. Little Che is already about to be married. Pound pound, a knock on the door was followed by the voice of old housekeeper Xiao Hongkang. Young master, it is almost time to go and meet your bride. Ah. Already. Xiao Lingxi glanced at Xiao Che's clothes and suddenly looked anxious. Uncle Hong, wait a little while longer and we will come out right away. She walked in front of Xiao Che and a pair of soft hands began to quickly tidy his wedding clothes. This outfit is quite hard to put on. Your clothes are in a mess because of the events earlier. Stand still, I will finish this right away. A pair of snow-white delicate hands began to work hurriedly. She flipped his collar back to the proper position and refastened his loose belt. Her actions were jerky, but she took it seriously and paid careful attention to what she did. Xiaoqie silently looked at her and his eyes gradually became misty. Today he was going to marry Sha Qingyu, but he knew for sure that Sha Qingyu was not marrying him because she sincerely loved him. If it weren't for their fathers, Xiaoxing and Sha Hongyi's agreement that March, Sha Qingyu would not even have bothered to take a glance in his direction. The only people in this world who were kind to Xiaoqie were his grandfather, Xiao Lai, and his little aunt, Xiao Lingxi. During his earliest childhood, Xiao Lingxi stuck to Xiaoqie like a piece of candy. She followed him wherever he went and it was hard for him to shake her off. If she did not see him for a while, she would cry loudly. However, when Xiaoqie turned 10 years of age and it was confirmed that his profound veins were damaged, Lingxi seemed to grow up overnight. She knew the consequences of having broken profound veins and then understood the concept of her identity as his little aunt. This started her regime of training in the ways of the profound to protect the life of the weaker Xiaoqie. After the Azure Cloud Continent's 24 years of dreams, Xiaoqie felt that his time here with Xiao Lingxi's kindness was as luxurious as it was precious. Although Sha Qingyu was about to become his wife, she would only be like the sky's coldest moon, something to only be seen but not touched. If I marry a girl like Little Aunt, it would be perfect. These kinds of thoughts uncontrollably popped up in Xiaoqie's state of mind. After completing the complex motions of dressing Xiaoqie, Xiao Lingxi let out a sigh of relief. Tippy-toeing, she lifted her hand and tousled his hair. With an expression of tender affection clearly printed on her face, her pink lips slightly parted like petals of a flower. With a supernatural speed, Xiaoqie instinctively tilted his head and pressed his mouth against Xiao Lingxi's lusciously pink lips.